My name is Steve Guttenberg. This continues to be the Audiophiliac Daily Show. And today it is all about the Denafrips Terminator Plus DAC. They're the new flagship from Denafrips. The plain vanilla Terminator continues. It's not being discontinued. It's just that the Plus is the step-up model. They are both R2R ladder DACs. Discrete, not chip DACs that are in most DACs that are on the market. The DACs that are inside the Terminator and the Terminator Plus, and in fact all Denafrips DACs are resistor ladder DACs, rows and rows and rows, hundreds and hundreds of very high precision resistors. So right away, this is one of the things that separates Denafrips from most companies that sell DACs. Most companies that sell DACs are just using a chip with a power supply and filters and stuff, but let's just put it this way, Denafrips rolls their own. They're not unique. I'm not saying they are unique, just saying it's kind of unusual, that's all. Anyway, so I reviewed the Terminator in December 2019 here on this channel. I absolutely loved it. I still have it here. It's my reference. I think it's still a phenomenal DAC. But what I'm going to tell you today, to cut to the chase, is that the Terminator Plus is a higher resolution DAC, a clearer, more transparent, more vivid sounding DAC. If you are a, let's put it this way, a resolution first audiophile, you crave ultimate resolution from your digital music, the Terminator Plus will make you very, very happy. Before we continue, I should mention the prices. The price of the Terminator, which is still on the line, is $4,498, $4,498. The Terminator Plus is $2,000 more, making that $6,498. Those are US dollars. Here's how I would sum up the differences. Many, many differences, but what it comes down to is improved digital isolation from the analog sections of the DAC. The other main difference here is the new one has a oven-controlled crystal clock. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Where the previous model, the Terminator, had a femto clock. Now, what those words mean, I have no idea. But let's go with the flow. So the other improvements are power supply and isolation from ground noise and crap that's in the ground. So they are very, very different devices, the Terminator and the Terminator Plus, and I will mostly concentrate on what I heard in this review. It's really, really beautifully made. This is a very intense piece of equipment. It weighs 42 pounds. It's about 19 kilos. It's solid. It is very, very solidly built. The side panels, the top are plate aluminum. It feels like it'll last forever. Oh, and which reminds me, it has a 3-year warranty. Now, when I asked the question about service in the US and elsewhere, what the distributor, Vinshine Audio, well, they responded with this, that usually the way it goes down is that if there's a problem, it is a board, and the boards are all user replaceable. So you would troubleshoot, if there was a problem, you would troubleshoot with Vinshine and Denafrips. They would determine which board needs to be replaced. They would send you the replacement board, you would plug it in, and you were back in business. That's the plan, at least. So that's the way their service works. And at this point, I should point out, in case it wasn't clear already, that Denafrips is a Chinese company. And they don't sell direct from China to consumers. Vinshine Audio in Singapore handles that part. So worldwide distribution, there's no dealers, no other distributors, just Vinshine Audio in Singapore. I'll make note here that the prices listed on the Vinshine website are in Singapore dollars, not US dollars. And that way, and well, all the currencies are floating, right? But the Vinshine price is the price, and then you just convert that to your local currency. But the US prices, as I make this video right now, are $44.98 for the Terminator and $64.98 for the Terminator Plus. The rear panel shows off a rather unusual and generous assortment of digital inputs, including 3 I²S inputs. And I'm not sure they all are, but some of them have pin configurable arrays, meaning you can make that pin configuration work with whatever your source is, like a CD transport. There's also clock input and output jacks. Again, not something usually seen on DACs, certainly not at this price. I listened to high resolution formats, PCM formats, with this upcoming MA Recordings / Audiophiliac sampler. And I will be posting that soon about you can get this free download. But I have it right now, and I listen to a lot of high-res recordings from MA, and the depth, space, detail, low level, meaning the quiet parts of the music, it's just really, really extraordinary. So yeah, it's when high resolution is done right, meaning without compression or processing or equalization, it can be amazing. It really can take your breath away, and I applaud Denafrips for making a DAC that has this capability, no doubt about it. So here's the big disconnect. Most of the music that's out there right now, that's being made now or made recently, is either 44.1 24-bit or 48 24-bit. That's it. That's like 80–90% of all the music that's being made currently and recently in the 21st century, right? Yeah, there are occasional 96-24 or 192. Yeah, there's a sprinkling of that. But the bulk of what's out there is 44.1 or 48. Now, the music that is being put out by major labels in higher resolution, 96-24, 192, it's great. It's great that it's listed that way, but they are still commercial recordings that are compressed and equalized and processed in a billion different ways. So though they have those numbers at hand, the advantages of high-res is not usually that big a deal in most recordings that are even recorded, mixed, and mastered in high-res. Of its actual use, I'm not so sure. It's nice to have, it's better than nothing, but it doesn't do a lot for me. So the bulk of my listening for this review was with CDs, 44.1 16-bit CDs, or files streamed from Qobuz or Tidal. And yes, I know they have high-res, and I listened to them in high-res, but they were, as I just said, compromised in the get-go in terms of their processing. So Steve, what about DSD? It's still out there, if you say so. I mean, I know. There's some companies that are recording some classical music. Here and there, there's a smattering of DSD recordings. Of course, it's very difficult to edit in DSD, so usually DSD is converted to PCM to be edited, then converted back to DSD, or DSD recordings, releases taken from old analog recordings. Yeah, there's DSD out there. But in terms of Bob Dylan recording in DSD, or whoever, your favorite band, Tool, or Nine Inch Nails, or whoever, recording in DSD, no, sorry, I think that ship has sailed a very, very, very long time ago. But yes, if you're into DSD and 10 times DSD, and you have some recordings in 10 times DSD, the Terminator Plus will make you very, very happy, no doubt about it. But I can't be everywhere, and I can't listen to everything out there. So I kind of let the whole DSD thing slide. So yeah, I spent a good deal of time comparing the Terminator to the Terminator Plus. And it was very easy to hear the difference between these two DACs. The Terminator Plus just wins in terms of transparency, hearing those quiet parts of the recordings better, high frequencies were clearer, bass was faster sounding, tighter. Like I said, not a subtle difference, not at all. The thing I can say in favor of the Terminator, the plain vanilla Terminator, is it was warmer, tonally a little more to my liking, more softer. It was softer, I'll admit it, let's just put it that way. It was softer, rounder, a tad richer, and I liked it for that. I liked it for those reasons. So in other words, what I'm saying here is I can't predict that everyone will find that the Terminator Plus is the better sounding DAC. It is the better sounding DAC in terms of delivering resolution and clarity. That is what it does. That's its main appeal. Oh, here's an interesting aside. When I started doing this review, I was listening to the Cornwell 4s, the Klipsch's, those are my reference speakers, and the amplifier was the First Watt F7, which is a 25 watt Class A amplifier. And I started to realize, hey, maybe even with a high sensitivity speaker like the Cornwell 4, maybe 25 watts isn't giving me all of it, right? So I put aside the F7 and I hooked up my big Pass Labs XA100.5s. Those are 100 watt mono blocks. And definitely, wow, what a difference. So they had more grunt and they seemed to let the pluses more visceral impact come through with more, well, with more visceral impact. It was, again, not a subtle difference. So I continued most of the time with the XA100 as the amp I was using for this review. I hadn't played the Who's Live at Leeds in ages. And I have the deluxe version of Live at Leeds, so it's a 2 CD set, and the second CD is the Who doing Tommy. Now this is, I think, 1969, 1970, so Tommy is still a new record. And the studio version of Tommy feels a little stiff to me. It just it's too much of a studio recording, where the live versions of Tommy just emphasize all the things that the Who does so well in terms of just raw power. How each of the four musicians, John Entwistle on bass, Keith Moon on drums, Roger Daltrey on vocals, and Pete Townsend on guitar, they're each like demanding your attention. They're all basically saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. And that power just was more so, more alive. The emotional connection to the music was stronger through the Plus. Returning to the Terminator, it just scaled back a bit. So the next CD I grabbed was the 13th Floor Elevators Bowl of the Woods CD. I love this band. They're overlooked, sorely overlooked, I'd say. And they have like a Who intensity to their sound. It's just this powerhouse. And it's, if you've never heard of them, listen to some 13th Floor Elevators and be prepared for a treat, because they are a trip. I used to think they were based in San Francisco because they were so psychedelic. Matter of fact, they claim to have released the first psychedelic record, I think, in 1965 or 66. So they were always into psychedelia. So let's talk about some nitpicks. Let's take a little break from the music, talk about some little things that bug me about this DAC, about its design. First is, though it is a fully balanced DAC and has XLR and RCA outputs, Denafrips advises against using both. One or the other is the way to go. You can't have RCA and XLR at the same time. I don't know what would happen, but they recommend against it. Another thing is, there's no remote control. And I think that's an issue, because it would be nice to be able to select which input you are listening to with a remote. There is no display that you could look at from across the room and see which input you're on. And speaking of seeing things, the labels over each button are incredibly tiny and impossible to read, certainly with my eyes, at any reasonable distance. And the tiny indicator LEDs over each input label are also really, 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 really small. I mean, the advantage is they won't blind you at night looking across the room and looking at those LEDs, glaring at you, but they're really hard to see. So in terms of user interface, I wouldn't rate the Terminator Plus, or actually any Denafrips DAC, as easy to use. Once you get used to using it, and you're probably only going to use one or two inputs, it's not that big a deal. But it would be nice if they made it easier to use. One other thing that would be nice to do with the remote is to switch between non-oversampling and oversampling, which you have to get up, hit the button to go between sampling and non-oversampling. Nice to do on a remote, kind of a hassle to do when you have to walk over and switch between them. So, little details. So the next thing I did was I compared the Plus to a Mytek Manhattan 2 DAC. Now, again, there's stark differences in the sound, and again, the Terminator Plus wins hands down on resolution. The transparency level is far beyond the Manhattan 2. But the Manhattan 2 just has a comfortable sound, an easy to listen to sound. It doesn't call attention to itself kind of sound. And I really, really like it for that. So not everybody is craving maximum resolution, and that's why different companies making different DACs are making DACs that do different things, right? They're pleasing different customers. I was using a Jay's Audio CD transport, and that transport has I²S and also AES EBU XLR balanced outputs. So I was comparing I²S to the AES outputs, and I would say definitely the I²S wins in terms of speed, detail, clarity. Again, all the things that this DAC does so well. And I was listening to Clint Martinez's score, all synth score for the TV show The Nick. That kind of palpability, texture, definition, whatever you want to call it, just was really strong over the Terminator Plus. And going back to the Manhattan 2 or the standard Terminator, I lost some of that and I missed it. I really did miss it because I knew it was there in the recording. I just wasn't hearing it as clearly. So to sum up, I just want to say, well, you know what I'm going to say about the Terminator Plus because I just said it over and over and over again. But I want to emphasize that the standard Terminator and the Mytek Manhattan 2 are they're not slouches. They're giving a lot. And I enjoy both of them immensely. So I don't think either of those are going away anytime soon, the standard Terminator and the Manhattan 2, because I just like them. You know, high-end audio and being an audiophile isn't all about resolution. As I said, it could be for some people. For resolution-first audiophiles, yeah, I get it. But I'm not one of those. So I admire the Terminator Plus for what it does well. But it's not my thing. It's not Steve's thing, really. So I'm going to probably continue to live with the standard Terminator and the Mytek Manhattan 2 as my two side-by-side reference DACs. So different horses for courses kind of deal, you know, different tool for different jobs. They can all coexist and happily will. So I think my work here is at last complete. If you are already a subscriber, thank you so much for being there. If not, hey, this is a good time. Hit that button down there. When you do, hit the notification bell, and you'll be notified every time there's an amazing new episode of this thing, the Audiophiliac Daily Show. What else? Oh, you should check out the Patreon at patreon.com/audiophiliac. And yes, there is a link to that directly below in the description for this video. And now I can say my work here is truly complete. Thank you so much for watching, and I really do hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Bye-bye.